So the topic of the first panel discussion of the day is the future of soft skills development, innovations, trends and opportunities for promoting lifelong learning and success. I would like to call upon stage Professor Smita Lal. Can we have a round of applause? Dean, IMM Business School. Dr. Jatinder Singh. Can we have a round of applause, ladies and gentlemen? Assistant Secretary General, PhD, Chamber of Commerce and Industry, New Delhi. Mr. Samir Sathe, can we have you on stage, please? Can we have a round of applause? Chief Executive Officer, EKSAQ. And we have one more panelist coming in between, Ms. Rabiaah Bhatia. So she will be joining in between. So I request all of you to please give a round of applause for all the panelists present on the stage. And let's start the first panel of the day. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Good morning, everyone. And I'm really happy to be here, to be conversing with you on a very important subject. And I've been assigned the duty of a moderator, so I hope I do that job okay. In all my past sort of present, the events and all the panel discussions, I've been a panelist, but never a moderator. So pardon me if I commit certain mistakes. I welcome my fellow experts on the dais here, and I welcome all of you on the second day. The topic that we are going to discuss today is about soft skills and lifelong learning, and how is it that we are going to deal with this, engage with this subject going forward, and how important it is in the lives of children, in the lives of parents, in the lives of teachers, in the lives of regulators, in the lives of school heads, everybody whom we are dealing with. What I'm going to do is that I'm going to sort of set the pace of this discussion with initial views from my fellow experts out here, with asking a very important question. And the question that I want to sort of start with is really, what is the main question that we are solving when it comes to learning? The question is about which question we are solving when it comes to learning, and what is that most important question you think we should be solving as a society, as educators, as people who are going to engage themselves in lifelong learning. Let's start with Dr. Lal.
Well, I think learning is adapting. You have to adapt, it doesn't matter where, to create value. To me, this is the most important thing. Now, the situation and the context will change from setting to setting, whether you are in education, whether you are at the corporate world, whether you are in maybe even an NGO providing to society. But wherever it is, you need to be able to create value. Value, again, becomes contextual, because what is value today may change a little further. But sticking with the basis of value that you are actually creating and providing backwards for society as well as for yourself, both working together in a balance, that is the most important thing. The changes in technology that comes up, the changes that come up due to the changes of digital literacy, which is a sudden requirement and all of us having to do, all of that then starts to override on that. And here that sense of balance is the most important, which very often tends to get skewed. This is what I believe is the most important thing at this particular moment, starting forward. Yeah.
Got it. Dr. Singh?
Hello. Yeah. Good morning, all of you. I think the most important thing that we need to discuss is about what are the foremost challenges and what are the probable solutions and way forward, maybe like in short term, mid term, and long term. So what I think one of the most important challenges, particularly when we talk of skilling, is basically the employability, because since I come from industry association and since we interact with many decision makers, and one of the pain points of most of the corporate captains is that they're not getting skilled people. So what we feel that the important challenges that the industry is facing right now is that there is a lot of skill gap, particularly in the emerging technologies. When we talk of new technologies, emerging technologies like AI, blockchain, when we talk of particularly in smart manufacturing sector, there are a lot of industry 4.0 integration, wherein all pillars of industry 4.0 like cybersecurity, cloud computing, industrial IoT, all those things need to be a part of the DNA of the entire supply chain. So there are a lot of gaps also, particularly that is being felt by the industry. So I think that is the thing that needs to be discussed, because the skilling normally it's happening, what we feel is at the shop floor, not at the school level or not even at the higher ed level. So maybe integrating skilling right now from, maybe from the foundational, years till the person graduates from the college. I think the skilling has to be, it has to be integrated in the entire curriculum. So I think that needs to be discussed, and that should be one of the, solutions as the way forward. Because when we are talking of, the growth trajectory of the economy, when we are talking of becoming the third largest economy by 2027, and maybe by 2047, the 35 trillion USD economy, for that there has to be preparation that has to start right now. Although there are a lot of new things, many innovative things in the new education policy as far as the education technologies and skilling is concerned, but I think making those things actionable is a daunting task. Those are things that need to be discussed, and how it should be done, how it should be implemented. I think since we have a lot of think tanks also in this hall, so probably we can take their perspective also the way forward.
Sure. So thanks, Dr. Singh.
Here I'd like to weigh in just to be able to summarize with what Sir has said. You see, basically you're talking about the technological skills gap. That is the main thing, if I'm correct in putting that. But with that technology change and the digital change that has happened, I think we also need to come back to the soft skills part of it, because that is the core. While technology changes, it keeps on making, it is your ability to be able to get back and all the soft skills part of it, which needs to be able to be generated, because otherwise whatever you have, even if we talk about employability and skilling, we are employing people, we are skilling people for technical things, but as we are skilling them, they are not able to change and adapt to the new requirements. And that particular part of it is also what we like to do. I am just adding on to it. It was not a contradiction. It was just putting it back again in order. Yes.
In fact, just to build on both your points,
yes.
The way I see the society today, they're evolving, and we did a study to look at what has been changing for last 3-4 centuries in terms of when people talk about skilling. Mm-hmm. And if you also look at the literature that we have actually talked about skills in every single different religion, every country, in different contexts, in different languages. I think the fundamental problem today, I would sort of characterize it in 3 ways. The first is learning to learn. I think we have forgotten how to learn, and that's one of the fundamental issues. Yes. Second, I feel the trade-off that we see between the economic outcomes, social outcomes, emotional outcomes, psychological outcomes, and we view them as really different tracks. That's itself is a problem. And the third dimension to this is really, if you look at the learning journey, which we all say it's lifelong, and then we are talking about lifelong learning, we are treating all these different stages of learning in silos, right? So there is a department called primary education, there is a department called secondary education, and then there is higher education, and then there is UG, PG, and so on and so forth. And in fact, all 3 of us come from backgrounds in last 3 decades and 35 years almost. We have seen corporates, we have seen academia, we have seen where is the skilling gap, and we are all treating all of them differently. So there is a Ministry of Skilling and Entrepreneurship, and then there is a Ministry of Education. But to me, these are the 3 fundamental disconnects. We have to treat them as the same, cohesive. We have to treat them as a continuum. And unless we see that as a continuum, it's going to be hard to basically look at how each one is looking at their own KPIs, their own indicators of what the outcomes are. So unless we align, the downstream sort of impacts are going to be monumental, right? So let's start with that. The question that we talked about in soft skills, the other thing that I always feel is that this whole distinction between, we have been always talking about hard skills and soft skills. But interestingly, what we find is that soft has really become very hard. It has. And in fact, there is no distinction to my mind on soft and hard skill in general, because when you really look at what is required in society to feel of utility, that you are of some utility to the society, to feel that you are going to be happy, and some of you must have read the study by Harvard that they did over 100 years, and they found out what are the chief reasons for happiness. They arrived at a very basic, simple thing. The learning, adaptability that you referred to, the soft skills that we refer to, and the ability to reinvent oneself and be one with nature, and then see yourself in the relation with the society, are some of the big drivers of what one feels at the end of the day when one feels that they have done or contributed to the society.
Absolutely.
So in fact, let's pick up on that point, and I want to ask you, Dr. Lal, is that from your point of view, what are the top 3 problems in skilling? Now we talk about different skills, and I'm going to refer to some of the studies that we have done in the past. But from your point of view, what are the top 3 skills missing today when we talk about lifelong learning, when we talk about soft soft skills?
See, there are many. Actually, if I put it, if we look at the World Economic Forum, they list 10 of them, which are the critical things that you are going to be the top skills that you need to have by 2025. The most basic of it is communication. And now communication, we are always talking. Everyone thinks they are great talkers. But are we getting our point across? That particular part of it is always a challenge. Now this one I think is really, really very core, because it is not just are you communicating in a written platform? People don't know how to write, and therefore ChatGPT is giving the letter. So do you need to really learn it? These are questions that everyone has discussed, and very pertinently so. On the other hand, it is, if you don't have the ChatGPT, do you have that ability to be able to critique what ChatGPT has given to you? First of all, is you have to communicate with ChatGPT, your prompts, the technical term for it. Do you have the right prompt? The right prompt is the right communication. How do you do that? When you communicate, are you able to elicit the response that you want? That is critical. Not, I've said my piece and I walked out. That leads into ego, anger issues, all the other emotional intelligence issues that kind of come into it. So communications also lands into that particular part of it. Then you end up with creativity issues, because you need to have a new way to deal with it when you have all what is happening. As you've said, these are all the problems, and you've highlighted them so beautifully. Now, in all of that, how are you going to deal with it? You can't suddenly say, all this is bad and we're going to start new. It never happens. So you need to have a critical thinking and a problem-solving mindset to be able to see what can we retain and how quick we can get to where we want to be. Those are the key issues, and a skill to be able to sift out all of that and say, this is what you need to focus on. Very, very critical. And then with all of these, the world moving towards teams, now it is here to stay. It was always there, but now it is on a multicultural platform. When you're talking to different kind of things, how do you communicate? How do you problem solve on that? How do you move forward? Therein lies that particular challenge. One of the things that I'm reminded of is that Google spearheaded this, if I'm right, and they put you into these rooms. So you're locked into a room and there's a challenge, and all of you people with diverse intellects and interests, etc., you're there. You have to sit and solve the problem, otherwise you can't get out of the room. So pressure and solve it, then you do it. Maybe that's one particular way to do it. But these are, I believe, the top 3 that I'm talking about. There can be so many more.
Sure. So you're talking about creativity, problem solving, and communication. What about you, Dr. Singh?
I think one of the important skill deficits, again talking from the industry perspective, that industry encounters basically the critical thinking and problem solving ability. Because what happens, when we talk of critical thinking, that only happens once you are emotionally stable, once your emotional intelligence is quite high, once you have empathy also. So I think during our school days, even in our college days, I think these are some of the missing elements in our curriculum also. We used to have only used to listen a word like sympathy. Now we have a word like empathy also. We used to think only like teamwork. Now we talk of synergies. So I think one of the issues that is skill deficit, one of the challenges I will say is definitely the critical thinking and problem solving skill, the emotional intelligence and the empathy part. And third is sustained, learning. What happens in terms of motivation and engagement, that is again a missing element. Because what happens, even normally we talk of lifelong learning, but we don't talk of, the sustainability of learning. Because what happens, the motivation levels of skilling or learning anything new is only sustained once there's a personalized, there's something known as experiential learning integrated into this. And normally, like in all our skill programs, what we have seen, students or even people, even our employees, they start with a lot of enthusiasm, but immediately a plateau is achieved and then there's a downward trend. That motivation element is lagging. Because the thing is, we don't reward, we don't value new skills as such, in the sense like when we are doing skilling, once we achieved a particular trait, there has to be a inbuilt reward system which keeps us charged. There can be concept of skill badges also, wherein in the industry, even in some cases we have seen that the corporate captains, they put some of the badges that I am skilled in so and so things. So that motivates other people also too. It's sort of a maybe a sort of a prompt mechanism which also instills confidence in others. Okay, let me also earn this badge. So probably rewarding excellence, rewarding skilling, maintaining the sustainability of that motivation, so that the lifelong learning has become a sort of a buzzword nowadays. Everybody talks of lifelong learning, but what is the DNA that entails to be a lifelong learner? Nobody talks about that. So maybe these are some of the things we need to discuss. We need to come with some sort of workable solutions also, considering our Indian diversity in mind, considering our culture in mind also, because since we talk of inclusion, we talk of diversity, we talk of, as a country, we talk of sabka saath, sabka vikas. So in that, context, we need to see what are the nuances of those learning, methodologies, those tools that can actually enhance learning experience, that will actually give a kick in terms of keeping that sustained motivation, so that lifelong learning, it becomes a sort of a journey rather than something which needs continuous charging on day-to-day basis.
So I think that's a good point. I think you're talking about the sustainability and then motivation to be able to do that, and one that requires tremendous interest in doing that in the first place. So what I've discovered is, just to pick on your points, is that the children and the adults, especially between the age 6 and 15, they are in the most ripe age to basically understand and grasp. But post that, as you become adults and start earning money and start living your life, the inquisitiveness really rapidly declines. The child in you is basically lost, and you don't have motivation to learn anymore, because you seem to be sort of cruising along, happy, unhappy. But it doesn't sort of dawn on all of us that one has to reinvent and one has to keep learning to be able to make a difference to yourself and to others as a part of the society. And that becomes a big challenge. In fact, at this stage, I want to sort of draw your attention to the report that we have produced. It's a rapid reader. In fact, if you can look at the show guide that is handed over to you, there is a barcode out there. If you can scan with your mobiles, you can go to that report, and I would request these guys just put it on there.
Sorry, sir, for interrupting you. Well, our fourth panelist for this panel is finally here. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Ms. Rabiaah Bhatia with a round of applause. Mompreneur, model, public speaker, global SDG ambassador, brand ambassador, mentor of change from Niti Aayog. Can we have a round of applause, ladies and gentlemen?
Thank you. Thank you,
Really
Rabiaah.
sorry for getting late. Thanks to morning traffic coming from Noida, and I was stuck on DND for good 40 minutes.
Thanks, Rabiaah. And
Thank you.
in fact, while the team puts up the presentation, let me sort of ask you, since you have just arrived, a question from your point of view, given your experience. We were talking about the subject of what are the top 3 problems in terms of lifelong learning and skilling that we are facing. What is your view in terms of the top 1 or 2 problems that you believe that the society faces in terms of lifelong learning and soft skills? And just before you came, I talked about the disconnect that we are calling them soft skills, but essentially they have become hard in my view. What's your view in terms of the top 3 problems?
So excellent. I was here listening to Sir also, and I was listening to you as well. So being a global SDG ambassador, I've been promoting women empowerment and quality education. And I wear many hats, but the first problem is, irrespective of those hats, I believe to be a better human. We all are human beings, right? But we forget to be a human first. And that is the major challenge, especially in India, we are facing. We forget that we need to give respect to each and every individual. We talk about soft skills, we talk about life skills. What it includes: empathy, respect, right, gratitude. These are the basic skill sets that we need to nurture in our children since the early childhood. Because if we are not respecting the other individual, we are not upskilling them with the basic leadership skills. Leadership skills, you need to be one of the team member. That is how the team will listen to you, the team will respect you. And that is the major challenge we are facing. We as employers feel that is a team, we are paying them, they need to work like horses, they need to work like, I don't know how. We expect them to work, one single person to work like 4 people. They are not horses, right? They are also human beings. We need to give them dignity, right? I'm the HR professional for last 20 years, right? I was working with the employers, worked with multiple employers, and for last 8-9 years I've been working on my own. I have seen the trend in the organization, be it education sector, be it the corporate sector. Fire, hire, fire, hire. Why are we not giving them the respect? Are we not taking them the resource purpose? When we hire a resource, we believe this would be the best resource. But we, in spite of giving them enough time to, come up to that level where, yes, they are productive to the organization, we just simply give them warnings and we fire them. Is this what we are looking forward towards? How we are going to make a sustainable living for each and every person in the world?
Thank you so much. In fact, this is exactly what I started with.
Yes.
You see, the most important
I'm so sorry,
thing.
ma'am, I
No,
did not
it's
hear.
perfectly
I
all
was
right.
late.
That's why I thought I'd just chime in.
No, in
I
fact-
started off, the most important thing is value creation. What is the value you are creating for yourself?
Yes.
And what is the value you're creating for others?
For-
Whether it is society, whether it is the world, or whatever it is, the cause
Absolutely.
that you're doing, or your professional cause. And you cannot do it without respect. You have to come down to respect, gratitude. Thank you. You've chimed all my...
Absolutely.
These are the core. And because we have moved away from all of these towards what is monetary, what is the in thing, and whatever is supposed to be the glamorous brand, I feel sorry about it because I come from the generation where we created the brands. I think we've overdone that.
Yeah,
That is not it. You have to come back to the core, and that is the core that is actually going to take you. And COVID time has shown you, you are nothing. Absolutely
Yes, you're
nothing.
nothing.
Until the time you had to go back and delve all of this out of you to be able to survive. This is the core. On this, you can build whatever it is that you want to, whether it is technical, whether it is social, whether it is monetary, everything builds on this. And I chime in with you on
That
that.
brings us to our very related question that we were discussing, Dr. Dal, just
Yes.
before this, is that, and we talked about it, the trade-off between economic outcomes and social outcomes and emotional outcomes. And, I think
See.
the question to ask really is, what is the behavior that we want to reward? Which behavior is at a trade-off with each other? And it's very apparent right now is that, and yesterday you talked about it, for the employment, there's all about pay, it's all about promotion, it's all about package, it's all about those things. But the question is that, those economic gains, everybody's walking that ladder, whether you're an entrepreneur, whether you're an employee, But on the other hand, children are also put in that slot, right? That mold that we talked about. And there lies the problem, right? Because we are not, and I think you talked about human being. This is really, I will just twist the word, is being human. Right? Being human, right? And that's the critical thing. In fact, at this stage, it might be interesting sort of to draw the attention to some of the study that we have done, and I want to sort of pick on certain points for our next round of discussion.
Please.
Just press this. So we did this study for, the essential topic was really looking at core skills, and it touches what we call soft skills today and what we call the learning for life. And we did this study across India, having, for last 20 years, we have been doing sort of testing with 4 affiliated CBSE schools with 15,000 students, and we have watched something like 15 to 18 academic cycles. And now we have tested and learned a lot from that. And what has really come out of that is very interesting. Nothing surprising, we have talked about it, but it really reinforces the points that we have been talking about yesterday and today. And I want to just give you a snapshot of that, right? Really, if you really look at what we are talking about and we try to quantify the impact, because fortunately or unfortunately, today everybody understands the language of money the most than any other language expression. So we try to quantify it so that we can understand it. On your chart, you can see what's the staggering impact that we are going to have, right? A lack of these skills that we are talking about, we believe that 50% of the population requires these shifts, and now you're talking about tech-driven because tech is very much a part of our lives. We believe that if we don't do this, it's going to cost us $15 trillion. And the chart that you are seeing on the right-hand side out there, it basically lists the physical, mental skills, it lists the cognitive skills, basic and higher, and then it lists the social and emotional skills. And the last is technological skills. If you look at the right-hand side of the graph, it talks about the CAGRs that we expect by 2030. And you can see the green ones, which are in the bottom 3. And you will notice that the physical, mental, and basic cognitive skills growth is going to be overshadowed by higher cognitive skills, social emotional skills, and technological skills. Anywhere between 10 to 30% is the CAGR of those skills compared to the physical, manual, and basic cognitive skills. And that's really alarming. If you look at really what we thought about in terms of the impact, and we did the study for India, and we looked at what is the potential if we really do this well. Now, on the left-hand side, we have the current spending pattern by Indian government. On the right-hand side, what we believe should be the recommended spending pattern. And this talks to our earlier point that we talked about. We are not treating the learning as a continuum. We are treating this as primary education, children, and adults. And the unfortunate fact is that we are spending billions of dollars on scaling adults when we know that the pace of learning structurally, biologically is going to be slower than what's going to happen in children. So if you look at the left-hand side, we are spending something like today $39 billion, which we believe is going to grow to $402 billion by 2035 and about $990 billion by 2047. And majority of that is spent on adults, right? But if you believe that you shift this pattern on the right-hand side, there is a significant portion, the lighter green that you see is basically for children. So we believe if you were to change the society and the next few generations, you need to make that expenditure happen at K-12 level, at children level, so that you are building those individuals with those skills as opposed to playing a catch-up game. And that's fundamentally different. Now we believe Indian government itself could save about $330 billion by 2050. Now that's a staggering amount. The same thing we did, we looked at non-government sources, and you look at the savings of $160 billion. I think cutting the long story short, I want to pick up all your points and basically ask you a question that we talked about the top 3 deficits in terms of skills, right? Let's talk about what are the 3 top solutions that you believe at the individual level, at the school level, at the society level, and at the government level that we should adopt. The top 3 solutions we should adopt, which you believe will have the highest impact.
See, I will confine it to what I understand from academia point of view. The government level, I will leave it to our esteemed panelists to be able to respond to that particular area. Most important, I think, what is you can't get away with is digital literacy and fluency. You have to do it. It is an imperative. You can run away with it as much as you want to. I'm a key example of it. My faculty sitting there will laugh at me, and they will very, very happily concur. Because I said I don't want to do it. Why must I do it? But I learned that I don't have, I can't take this attitude anymore. I am also ashamed to say, I'm actually having to say ashamed now, that I do not use Paytm. I have fought it, but now I understand where I am lagging, because it is an imperative now. Learning all of this. So we have reverse mentoring that's happening in our institute, and I very proudly say a lot of them teaching me, so reverse mentoring happening, and that is the reality of today.
That's a valid
Digital
point.
literacy and fluency, it doesn't matter what age, what person, you have to do it. And there is no ego involved with it, you just have to do it. Better go to the expert, whoever is the expert, and learn from there and be able to take it. So digital
Indeed.
fluency is one. Your technological advancements, which is happening, all of that is bound to happen. Along with that, that particular thing has to come up. You cannot get away from it. Whether you talk about agile methodologies, whether you talk about the new introductions that are coming, it's far too rapid for you to do. By the moment you've got something, there's something else that you have to learn. So this brings back you again to learning, that you have to learn. Whether you are learning in micro, where is the time? Now, you're a working professional, you know you want to do all of this. Do you have the time for it? I mean, it's conceptually very wonderful to say you should do it, but where is the time? So then that is why you learn into micro learning. Whether when you get into LinkedIn learning, okay, what did I learn? I learned a little bit of snippet, learn how to fast forward it, or you go through your TEDx or your YouTubes, all of that. I think all of this is just kind of adding on in one particular way,
Sure.
where your learning is done. So you're not learning in a structured way, or you're learning when you want to do a personalized learning, what I need to learn is not what somebody else needs to learn. So we don't go to certifications. You do a micro certification if you need it for yourself, but if not, it is basically adding on to your own thing at your own time. And the most important is, again, adaptability, joining in, and learning emotional quotient, because the maximum thing which you all of us have noticed is that post-pandemic, the one thing that has gone is depression is there, people are unhappy, everyone has heavy loads, very rightly so. I mean, and I'm not mitigating the pain that these issues have come. But change is not easy. To bring change management behavior, agile methodologies have to bring in, not only in the technical area, but also into yourself, to accept that I will need to be able to do it. These are the critical things.
I think somewhere you're touching a very important point. Before Dr. Singh, you chip in with your view. You're touching upon the very important aspect is about changing oneself first. Then
And
looking at
then
changing
only
others.
you can talk
right?
about changing the others. If I'm not if I can't do it, how do I stand and I preach, in the normal teaching way, you should do this, this is the great thing to do, that is how it is to be done. It doesn't happen anymore. And your learning does not need to be confined only to your classrooms or whatever. It has to be experiential. You learn from your interactions. This particular forum itself is one particular interaction. Sitting over there listening to many people, there were many thoughts that I held when I said, oh, that's the way it is. I said, no, I need to think about it. We need to have more of this particular, immersive into various kind of scenarios when you end up doing that. You need to bring that. And to bring that, you need to bring flexibility. One of the things I was reading about, and I was really kicked about it, apparently Netflix and Twitter, they hold a lot of these improv comedies. Now I've been seeing these improv comedies, but I didn't know why. Now I understand the why. It is to bring in certain amount of humor into your life. You have a stressful situation. What is a comedy? A comedy is I stand and I say, oh, but this was a terrible. So whatever was your pain point, instead of suffering it through, you've actually converted it into a way to laugh about it. Once you've laughed about it, it is not your pain point anymore. And you've been able to release it. Now, just saying a comedy show, the impact of that with the employees is so wonderful. So you've already jumped into scenarios that is there. And of course, move towards optimism, move towards encouragement, moves towards a joy, which is a quicker learner.
Interesting. Dr. Singh?
Yes.
Yeah, in fact, very well said, Dr. Lal. So one of the things that I normally, believe in that. It's very easy to say change yourself. I think it's the most difficult proposition in our life.
Totally.
Because at the end of the day, we are just what we are because of our habits. And our habits are formed because of our continuous thought process. And those habits actually result in our destiny also. The so-called destiny that we say. So I think particularly as Madam said about the learning part, the micro-learning, I think micro-learning, when it is, embedded with gamification, it brings more results.
Absolutely.
So what we have seen, particularly if we see the retention, of any child, right now retention is not more than 20-25 seconds for a particular, thing. But if there is a gamification element in any of the learning modules, the retention improves, the engagement improves, the outcomes improve. So I think probably in all our curriculum, if, there's enablement of gamification, we need to embed gamification in each and every curriculum. That is one part. Second is like particularly nobody or very less people talks about mentoring and coaching. I think that is the critical element for anybody's life. Normally, at Chamber we run a program called as like Shadow CEO, wherein we encourage students to be with the, with the CEOs or, with the promoters of the organization for whole one day, just like this shadow. Just see how they conduct meeting, how they walk, how they talk, how decisions are made. So until unless there's a blend of experiential learning with the, the classroom learning, things won't, help at all. Because what we have seen, normally there's a lot of disconnect between the theoretical learning and the practical thing that happens at the organization level. So second is like, definitely mentoring and coaching has to be embedded in at each and every level. Third important thing is I think there has to be a lot of good relationship synergy between academia and industry. So there has to be, the curriculum has to be co-curriculum with the industry. Why don't we have the colleges, for example, the Department of Management, for example, curriculum prepared by Wipro. For civil engineering department, curriculum prepared by L&T, right? For computer sciences, curriculum prepared by TCS. Why don't we have those, co-curriculum or sort of the co-creation things that will actually enhance the employability of the students also? I think those things need to be discussed, although like I'm in many of the academic boards in many of the universities, but I think that is just ceremonial for maybe enhancing or putting on the website or maybe in the brochure, all those names are added. But once it comes on the practical ground, when we discuss the curriculum, when we discuss threadbare, what all things, I think that is more of an eye wash rather than something, the feedback which is, that has to be taken seriously. I think that is again a missing element. So I think the curriculum thing, after every department, let's have an industry footprints in terms of curriculum. So the industry will also be charged and motivated. Okay, I am the framework of this curriculum. I need to put my best foot forward. Let me engage my best people so that whenever we are changing any of the contents of the curriculum, any of the, the credits, let's put in the best that actually augurs with the industrial requirements and needs.
Sure. No, I think these are all valid points. And before I come to you, Rabiaah, just to build on Dr. Singh's and what you said. So one of the things that at least I feel that I've discovered is that, again, going back to the earlier point, is that this whole treatment of in silos, right? Because we think industry participation and into academia, it's an add-on because that requires to be done because to get the employment, to get the better pay, placements, etc. The question to ask really is that what are we building futures of children for? What is the real main objective, right? Obviously, we are building them for learning, but the use case of that learning really is what they do with that learning. And I feel that whatever happens in children's lives or adults' lives, as long as the experiential learning that we referred to earlier is, let's say, is about 60% of their learning, is not going to be effective, right? Because you're going to make a difference between the theory and application. To me, I find it very funny, fundamentally. That's because what you do in theory is primary with an objective to apply. It's not the other way around, right? It's basically do application, and there is a need for theory for that. It's the other way around, right? So I think it boils down to the point of, if we really change the curriculum design and what we are rewarding in terms of assessments and rubrics, and yesterday we talked about it in some of the sessions, it's not going to really make a change, and we will keep talking about it conceptually, but in the reality, it has to really augur well for, can I just put the screen on? Sure. I think I pressed something wrong. unless that's going to happen, it's not going to make any difference, right? So I feel that's the first thing that we need to do. And I think from my point of view, when I look at, I think that you touched upon the point of, building individuals so that they can relate well with the others. The mental health issue is very critical because we have found 0.63 correlation between mental health and the performance of that individual. Now I'm talking about performance not necessarily in the what we think of in terms of the achievements of the person, but really, truly, whether that person truly feels when they look back in their lives when they are 70 or 80, have they really done it? Do they feel fulfilled, right? There is a 0.63 correlation. That's pretty high, right? But what are we doing to correct it? We are doing nothing about that. I think that's a fundamental issue. Rabiaah, I would like to pick your brain on this point particularly, and then we will make the floor open to the questions.
Thank you so much, Samir sir. So, coming to what Samir sir has asked me, and I will pick up few points from ma'am and sir as well. Like sir said that learning should never stop, and change is constant, right? If we are not changing, we are not growing. If we are not learning, we are not growing. So learning and change goes hand in hand. Plus, I think the most important aspect is mindsets. Our mindsets have to be changed. We saw in COVID that we had to learn technology. We were not equipped with technology. We were just running here and there because of our social lives, because of our jobs. But thanks to pandemic, the world stopped, right? So we need to stop somewhere. We just can't keep running. We need to sit back, we need to go back to those days where we started from scratch. And that's how we'll be able to understand what we missed, the mistakes we did, and how we can grow from there. So there is no age limit to learn actually. That is what we have to understand first of all. Secondly, we have to empower the kids. For that, we first have to empower ourselves as adults. Only then we'll be able to empower the youngsters, the youth, the future leaders, right? We call them as future leaders. We call them as future, coming up with the youth is coming up with lot many things now. They are becoming entrepreneurs. But as we talk about the employability skills, sir rightly said that it has to be co-curriculum. Co-curriculum doesn't only talks about the few employability fields, for example, a doctor or a lawyer or an entrepreneur or a teacher. But now, thanks to pandemic once again, we have so many fields opened in front of us. I'm being a model, professional model, I'll talk about the modeling. Still, that is not accepted in the market, right? Why? What is wrong? What is bad in that? I have experienced how difficult it is to walk on that ramp actually. If you're not confident, you cannot walk the ramp.
You cannot do it.
So the most important part is be confident in what you are doing and be passionate about what you are doing. This is what we have to inculcate in the kids as well. Plus, it starts from you yourself. As rightly said, you cannot change yourself. It is not an easy task, but let me just tell you, it is not difficult at all. Nothing is impossible, as we all know. The word impossible itself is I am possible. To be honest, I'm sorry, sir.
I've been just instructed we just have 10 minutes for audience, so if you can just make it into 1 minute. Yeah, thank you.
I am 48 at this point of time. I have 23 and 25 years old daughters. And the way I have changed myself, I can see that I'm able to spread that happiness amongst the society as well. So change yourself. It is not a difficult task. You need to give time to yourself. Sit with you, spend time with you. You will see and you will realize what all mistakes you did. And that is how you'll be able to support and help the child also in front of you. For a child, education, the school starts from the home itself because the child is observing you all the time, being a parent, being a grandparent. And if you are not changing yourself, you're not giving the right kind of values to your child as well. Plus, one more thing. We talk about happiness these days, but happiness comes from within. And for that, we need to give them the environment for their wellness, for their health, for their emotional aspect as well. And for the employees, it is the same because of the fact employees are also working day and night, and they are also under depression for so many expectations from them, from the HR and from the employer. So I think yesterday I went to an event and I saw how they are motivating their employees. Believe me, I was shocked and I was stunned to see that every quarter they are doing award ceremony and they are motivating their employees with their appreciation, with rewarding them for their non-sales team or the sales team. So motivation, empowering, upskilling, very important. That is all I would like to say.
Sorry to interrupt you, but I think we have to respect
the
time.
audience.
We have to give opportunity for the audience to ask questions. I think we have, 10 minutes? How many minutes do we have?
10.
Yeah. Any questions?
Any questions? Yesterday there were many, right at the back. Thank you so much.
Greetings to the respected audience and the panelists there. I have a question as
Could
I'm
you
a
introduce
learner.
yourself?
My
Yes,
name is
wonderful.
Annie Miraj
Thank you.
Kitlai, and I work in education. I introduce myself here as an educator, though I run in online academy on a hybrid model. So my question is, as I really enjoy this company of like-minded people here, and you can take it as a learner or as somebody who is very much interested or curious to find new ways to teach young children or young adults. How social proofing, any of the panelists may please address this as a curious person, how social proofing in education impacts the decision making of the educational leaders, as well as how do you see social proof in education? For example, in the field of psychology, the psychologists take social proofing as, like the marketers who grab trust of the consumers. So in terms of a product, if they're selling, for example. So in education, I see the students, the learners are products of educational institutions. So the validations coming from the history of the gurus or of the educators in the past, and how it's still impacting 21st century skill building, or even if you take the example of COVID or pandemic. So how we can transform it? So how do you see it impacts the decision making of educational leaders as well as of parents, and how it impacts the learners in your point of view? Thank you so much.
Would you like to take this? Okay. Could you elaborate just one moment on this word social proofing that you're talking about?
Social proof is a phenomenon. It's given by psychologists in the research. I'll drop the question.
No. I'd like to answer that.
Social proof that you want a validation from around.
Right.
In a very easy term, if I will define social proof. For example, if a celebrity is using a product, and you are, because that celebrity is using that product, so you are using that. For example, in edutech or edtech, even the educators whose pedagogy probably might be old. But how you'll introduce disruptive innovation in terms of artificial intelligence, for example, usage of, for example, any language models these days. So many of the educators in the field of education, they're willing to ban it. So how will you bridge the gap
when it comes down to influences, can I put it down as influences from society?
Exactly.
You getting influence?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay,
yes,
all right. Then now let me speak about it. See, societal influences you cannot get away with. That is definitely going to remain, and it evolves from time to time because society is evolving. Scenarios are evolving. Now you have your influencers, marketers leverage these data. This is how branding is built. I build my branding by understanding what your psychology of the consumers. First, I do an analytic. I figure out what is the masses targeted audience. Therefore, all your data analytics and all the other time, we didn't speak about it on this, but this comes in there. And therefore, then you do it. You cannot get away with it. It is part of psychology. Psychology will continue to do it, and you will always continue to be influenced by it. The difference is when you come back to what I said as your core value. If your core value is strong, and that is the one that you are building on, whether you're nurturing it within your families, or within your communities, or within your educational, this is, like cheating is not good. The moment you've done that, this means that the moment I got an opportunity in my working life, or any other place, or something that I have come from a child to go creating, I will never ever permit it to happen, because that is my core value. That particular value system needs to be correct. If your value system gets corrupted, then there is very little that we can do. Yesterday, I had a very interesting conversation with you, right? He was talking to me about a very, very core value system. We are talking about agriculture, and that is how the conversation went. And agriculture part of it, you have the farmers need to make it. I'm not going political, but he did mention one thing, going down to the grassroots. The farmer, the food that he supplies to you in the market, he does not eat it. Why doesn't he eat it? He has his own farm, am I correct? Do I stand validated on that point? He has his own piece of land
Sure.
on which he does organic farming for himself and for his family. Now, what is this as a value system that we have picked up as a society? We need to define these. It is, and why are they giving you pesticide-based food? You are getting all of that because monetary attachment, your value attachment has gone into money, not into human values. Human values do not change. Why panelists earlier have talked about Aristotle, they've spoken about all other philosophies. None of those philosophies are wrong. And why are they not wrong, even though they are ancient? I talk about Buddhism. Why do we do it? Because the human has not changed. We pick up other wrong social influences, which we need to correct. And that is something that we need to do.
Just to add to this, there are two dimensions to me. One is about the value system, as you rightly pointed out. The other is the second point that you can see, the third point that you can see on the slide, which is the art of synthesis. You know, there's going to be a lot of stimuli that is going to come to you. Some influencer is going to say X, somebody is going to say Y, somebody is going to say A, B, C. What sense you make out of it is today one of the biggest challenges that we are all facing. It's no longer access, because we have tremendous information everywhere. It's about what sense you make out of it. So when you think about validation and when you think of social proofing, it could prove or disprove what your hypothesis is. You have to remember, but ultimately the conclusion that you want to reach is based on how beautifully you synthesize and whether your synthesis art is correctly placed. So that's a skill which is needed, and this is right up there, which we believe is tremendously needed in today's age and time, because we know that access is no longer there. There is ChatGPT, there is Gemini, there are large language models, there are foundation, there are 1,000 things happening. Now the question is, if you are combining value system and the art of synthesis, then likelihood that you will reach the right decision.
Does that answer your question?
Look at it. You know what was it endorsed by, right? Indeed.
Yes, exactly.
In fact,
But in fact, whatever said and done, market forces are defining everything. It's beyond even our comprehension, beyond our understanding.
Exactly. Yeah. I think we are running out of time, I guess.
Question, please. Can I ask?
Are we done? Yeah. I mean, we can go on for hours, but I think in the interest of time.
But thank you for your
Thank you,
question. That
thank you,
was a
Rin.
very
Appreciate it.
insightful comment. Thank you so much for it.
Do we have time for one or two questions? One question? One question.
Yes.
I would like to, I am Ziaul Sabur, I am from Bangladesh, and I would like to thank he's Dr. Rupali, he is basically my mentor and big brother. He has invited me, so I am greatly honored. I have worked in the education sector in Bangladesh for more than 30 years, and lastly I was in Brack University Institute of Education. Now I work as a consultant in education ministries. I would like to point out two practical issues. I think these are two practical issues are related, are the platforms, are basics on which we build on our build on education. Whether it is we are talking about value education, we are talking about ethical things and also technical abilities and all those things. All those things, I believe, which is my personal belief, has two important dimensions in the context of Bangladesh. Firstly, if you see the statistics, 2/3 of our children in Bangladesh are underweight or stunted growth. So if that means they do not have the biological cognitive ability to absorb information and act on it. So I am suggesting that please don't separate education and health. And now there is certain movement going on, but it is not near enough in Bangladesh. So our children keep on doing bad. And the second thing I would like to put forward, it is a long story, but I will put it short because other people will be speaking. You see, the world policy, global policy and national policies to that extent have radically changed after this EFA. EFA, we were all trying to work on the basic education, primary and secondary. But when suddenly the SDG 4, or almost SDG 4 more than half gone, but entire education system, governance system is still designed to serve the cause of basic education. But now if we are to make effective implementation of the 17 goals, we need a critical amount of people who have secondary, tertiary skills level. And we do not have efficient tertiary and secondary, tertiary skill level, technical or vocational or whatever it is. And to do that, we need a policy shift. That's why I'm working. In order to do policy shift, you cannot work now in a fragmented way. You cannot just make a policy of primary separately, secondary. Yeah. You have to make a comprehensive planning and a cross-sector planning. The cross-sector planning, to do cross-sector planning, you have to reorganize your current governance system, which is not, able to provide such thing. So I would like India being a large country, the complex country, how you are going about it. That's what my...
In the interest of time, I think very quickly, just addressing your first point, sir, I think you have raised the right point about health and its relation to what we are doing in academia. In fact, as we speak, we are working with a very interesting startup started by IIT professors from Mumbai. They are working on a platform of nutrition, integrating AI and ML, to basically look at diagnostic of different children coming from different backgrounds and different personas. And they are studying the nutrition levels and its impact on IQ and cognitive performance of the children. And we are going to now propagate that to the different sections of the society, because we completely agree it has tremendous impact on the 5 layers that we talked about: physical health, mental health, psychological health, emotional health, and spiritual health. And all this go hand in hand. So that's a very, very good point that you raised. So thanks. I think
and also you raised the same point in the beginning when you had said that we are all talking and working. Government tends to work in silos from various ministries. And that is the reason why professionals like you in your particular roles and capacities and influencers, you need to be able to influence people to learn how to come back. Teamwork, again, cross-collaboration, not only intercontinental, but also within departments, within whatever. All of this is what is necessary.
Thank you. Yes. Thank you, everyone. I thank
all right,
thank you so much.
Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. Can we have a huge round of applause for this amazing session?